having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. Go to emailrevealer.com, get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator. Also, too, if this is the first time you listen to this show, please check out oppermanreport.com. You go to oppermanreport.com, there's a special member section on there where you can subscribe. And we have exclusive additional content that you won't find on Friday nights or Saturday nights that you can only find by membership on OppermanReport.com. And also, too, we've got a bookstore there where you can get a copy of any of our guests who has a book to sell. And we can probably get a copy of this video up there, too, as well. And you can purchase the book through a link on our bookstore. Today we have Libby Handros, who is the documentary filmmaker of the Top Secret, Suppressed. You never heard of this documentary, you never saw it, even though it's incredibly, incredibly good. It's called Trump, What's the Deal? Libby, are you there?
I am, yes. Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. Hey, what a stroke of luck, because I shot you an email, I was begging you to come on the show, and I guess it got lost, so you responded to me and it got lost. And thank God we got in touch, because I just watched this today, and I tell you, I love it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah, it's not just that it's a great expose on Trump. It's a great taste of the 80s in New York City. I'm from New York. And watching it, I kind of miss New York, you know, and I normally don't have that feeling. So I really, really enjoyed it. So give us an idea about the film, Trump, What's the Deal, and how come no one's heard of it?
Well, it was made originally in the late 80s and finished in 1991, and it was supposed to be the pilot for a series of documentaries on celebrity businessmen. You've got to take yourself back to the late 80s, and that's when businessmen were suddenly becoming celebrities. So you had Donald Trump, you had Lee Iacocca, you had H. Ross Perot, you had people like that who suddenly, were going from the realm of business into the realm of celebrity status. And you also had, you only had 3 networks, and then you had a bunch of independent stations that would run syndicated programming. And specials that, were in syndication were good TV deals. People made a lot of money on them. And so this was supposed to be the pilot for a whole series on celebrity businessmen. But little did we know that Donald Trump would scream and yell because he didn't like what we were finding out about him, most particularly the fact that he didn't have as much money as he said he did. And this is before he declared bankruptcy the first time, and so this made him very, very nervous. And so he screamed and yelled. He used one of his trademark tactics, which is he threatened to sue anybody that would broadcast the film. And even though the lawsuits might have had no merit, no broadcaster wanted to take it on. And so, in fact, he effectively suppressed the film. It was shown publicly once in 2 back-to-back screenings, July 4th weekend 1991 at the Bridgehampton Community House on the east end of Long Island. It was a standing room only crowd. We tied up traffic on the road that goes in and out of the Hamptons, which is the summer playground for the rich and famous in New York City. And it also happened to be the day that Donald announced his engagement to Marla, so we did very well. And then after that, the film was on the shelf, and I thought, it's going to end up being an obit piece. We'll dust it off when Donald dies. But lo and behold, 4 years ago, when he made noise about running for president, we got it out, we looked at it, we said, this still holds up. We digitized it because, of course, technology had changed in all those years. And by the time we were ready to get it out there, he had dropped out of the race. So this time we were ready for him.
Okay, and now you can find.
And we released it. We released it on our website, TrumpTheMovie.com, at the end of July, and now it is been picked up by iTunes.
Oh, very good, very good. But right, someone wants to watch. Hey, it goes straight to iTunes. Yeah, when you click on Purchase Rent, it goes straight to iTunes. So the website is TrumpTheMovie.com, and you can pick it up right now for pennies, a couple of peanuts here, and you can watch it today. Okay, now. The movie kind of starts out. He never actually filed a lawsuit against you, did he?
No. He threatened.
Just threatened, and that was enough to terrify all the distributors that they wouldn't pick it up.
Sure, because as soon as somebody threatens you, then you've got to fire up your legal team. We didn't, because we're a small production company. We're judgment proof. Right.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, what about now? Is he coming after you now?
Surprisingly, he hasn't, which is very strange because, he goes after anybody who he thinks has slighted him in the smallest of ways. So I can only think that he doesn't want to give more attention to the film because he knows it's devastating.
Yeah, it really is. Now, what about Trump supporters? Are you getting any kind of threats and stuff like that from these Trump fans?
Occasionally on various websites where the film has been, people write in, but not to us specifically. I think the Trump's. It's interesting. I've been on Done Radio where people have called in, and there's a certain Teflon quality to him. They don't. If you're supporting him, it doesn't matter what you say about him. People don't believe it, or they'll say that was then and this is now.
Yeah, I hear you. The way I usually describe it, it's like when you have the victim of a con man. They don't want to believe it. They want to hope, and they don't want to believe it, and they actually get mad at you for pointing it out. So what are you going to do? Now, you started off the film by pretty much calling him P.T. Barnum.
Yes.
Now, so describe that. Now, why is that? If you're a Trump fan, you think, well, this guy's a successful businessman. He made all this money back in New York. He's a self-made man. He got along with a loan of $1 million from his dad, and then he paid it back. Is that what happened?
No, not really. That's why he is P.T. Barnum, because everything he says isn't really true. His whole story is basically a fabrication. First of all, he's not a self-made man. His father had made a fortune and was totally politically connected in this city, so that when his son came along and wanted to do certain projects, all his father had to do, it was a wink and a nod, and this kid was able to do it. As a man by the name of Ned Eichler, who's interviewed in the film, and he was in charge of getting rid of all the properties of the old Penn Central Railroad when that went bankrupt, and they had a lot of big and very interesting properties. And Donald got several things out of that bankruptcy, and as he says in the film, no normal 28-year-old would have gotten that, but, his father and the then mayor of New York City, Abe Beame, had grown up together and were, close friends, and Abe Beame, as he was coming up through the political ranks in the city, had made sure his friend Fred Trump had done very well. And so, as we say in the film, the mayor put his arm around Donald and said, anything he wants, he gets.
Yeah, and things.
So that was the seal that started Donald going.
I was surprised to see how Trump was connected with guys like Stanley Friedman.
Well, that at the end of in the 80s and the 70s and 80s in the city, if you wanted to do business in real estate, you needed those guys.
Yeah, and these guys left. Stanley Friedman was the Bronx boss, and he left because of that scandal with the Parking Violations Bureau.
He went to jail.
Yeah, right. Well, where is he today? Have you located where he is today? Because it says he's working for some kind of condo company.
I haven't thought about that.
I wonder if he wound up back with Trump.
No, I don't think so, no.
Okay. Now, what about when you were looking up, you were looking into Fred Trump? Did you ever run across any of that stuff about how he was involved with the KKK?
No, I wish we had found that out. That's something that came out more recently, which is just a luscious story. We had found out that he had been in trouble for not renting to minorities. And that was particularly a heinous violation because he had taken federal money to build low-cost housing, and so he was supposed to be very much a blind renter.
Now, what about Trump? Didn't he have some problems with that, too, as well?
Well, Donald had problems. Donald was working for the company when those things were going on, so he just followed in his father's footsteps. Of course, Donald has tried to throw tenants out of his buildings, but that's more so that he can tear the, throw rent-controlled and rent-stabilized tenants out so he can tear the building down. But that's slightly different.
Yeah, in your film, you had some old footage, and I can remember this when I was a kid living in New York, that Trump was saying, I want to open up some of my apartments to homeless people and give them free services, because he wanted to put homeless people in the building to scare out the other tenants.
Yeah, that's a man who wants to be president. These are his business tactics. He hired the worst company you could possibly hire to clear a building where they, would find out anything they could about you to use it against you.
Yeah, at that time, things were very, very intense with I guess, when everything started converting to condos and co-ops in Manhattan, because even my grandmother had a place on 86th Street, and then they did the same thing to her. They kicked her out of her place that she lived in for probably 50 years. Now,
no, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And it's just the worst tactic. I mean, you're going to make so much money on the building, buy people out for a respectable sum of money. Don't just try and throw them out so that you can save a dime.
Now, what about Trump's connections to organized crime?
Well, you can't build in the city in some measure, without doing business with organized crime, but his seemed to be a little bit tighter. He did business. First of all, Trump Tower is an all-concrete building, and it was the first of that kind in New York City, and you couldn't build a concrete building without doing business with the mob.
Yeah, at that time, there was only one concrete company in New York City, Scaramix, which was owned by Paul Castellano.
That is correct, yes.
So it's pretty much a done deal with that. Now, what about, I saw something in your film that I had never seen before about this guy, Garofalo, who was shot out in front of his home?
Well, yeah, that has to do with Atlantic City and the helicopters that would take people to Donald's casinos in Atlantic City, and there was this guy, Joey Wexelbaum, who was in trouble with the law and who Donald gave basically a free apartment to. And so if you want to know more, we touch on Donald's mob connections, but if you want to know a lot more about Donald's mob connections, you should read Wayne Barrett's book on Donald Trump. He's got it all laid out there.
Okay, I'll definitely have to check that out. But why don't you give us an idea about the helicopter pilot? What is that story?
Well, so Joey Wexelbaum was running Donald's helicopters from bringing the high rollers from New York City to Atlantic City, and it's probably that he was also smuggling drugs, and Donald knew it, and he got into trouble. His sister, Marianne Trump Barry, who was a judge, should have recused herself from the case, but she didn't. He basically got off, and he got an apartment in Trump Tower.
So even after he wasn't convicted, and he was given a free apartment in Trump Tower?
He was given... Well, we can't confirm that. We suspect that.
Now, that's very interesting. Now, what do you think is behind that?
You can make your own decisions about that. I can only tell you what I know.
Yeah. I had never known... I heard about this helicopter pilot that was smuggling drugs, and I knew that he got... that the Trump's sister was the judge in his case. And I knew that Trump was supporting the guy afterwards, but I never knew that he got an apartment in Trump Tower. That's very interesting. Did he ever work for Trump again?
Not that I know of. And then, there's a new scandal, which is not in our film because it comes along after us, but there's this guy, Nick Salter, that Donald's been doing business with. That's a very interesting story.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
So Salter was a partner with Donald, or was working for the Trump Organization on the building of some of his new buildings, the hotels, the one here in New York City, the Soho Grand, I believe, and then a couple of failed projects in Florida, Phoenix, and Panama City. And, first he claimed, when it was brought up to Donald, he claimed, I have no idea, he didn't work for me, but there are pictures of them standing together, and there are also business cards with this man's name on it, identifying him as an employee for the Trump Organization. And Salter's files are all sealed because he turned state's evidence on a stock scandal, and so he's been given protective status, and there's some lawsuits going on to try and get those files opened on the grounds that investors lost money because they didn't know the background of some of the partners in these projects.
Okay, that's very interesting. I never heard of that one. Now, what about it? Did you find out anything about Trump's relationship with
I just knew they were friends, and I don't know much about that. I heard rumors, but we didn't go down that line.
Okay, now what about now today? There's a lot has come out about Trump's friendship with the convicted pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, what about when you were working on your film? Anything come up about him back then?
No, we didn't. We did not. That's Jeffrey Epstein comes after when we were working on the film. I mean, we certainly knew that Donald had a taste for women, and while we were working on the film, is of course when he got divorced, and we had been told that Donald had a mistress who was living in the St. Moritz Hotel, and I'd be a rich woman if I had just gone and sat in the lobby there with a bag camera. But we felt there was enough on Donald that we didn't have to go after him in his personal life.
It's funny you would say that because when it first came out that weekend, when the story exploded about Marla Maples, I used to be friends with a bunch of flight attendants in Manhattan, and Marla Maples was hiding out at their apartment. Okay, where she was hiding out from the paparazzi. I guess she was hiding out from people like you, but she was hiding out over at my friend's apartment there in Manhattan. Now, what about because you say about his dalliances with women? Did you come up with anything about this? Recently, it came out, there was a lawsuit recently about Trump Modeling Agency. Anything along those lines?
These are things that have come out since we worked on the film, so I can't really speak to them except for the fact that his business practices, whether it's the modeling agency, whether it's Trump University, are so sleazy. And this is a man that we wish to be president of the United States.
It's funny you should mention that phrase sleazy because if you look back at his war with Rosie O'Donnell, the reason why they got into that big war of words is because she described him as being sleazy and a con man. And that's when he went after her with a vengeance.
Exactly. So, sorry, my dog is barking in the background.
We got a lot of dog lovers listening to the show, don't worry.
I apologize.
That's okay.
But, so, I mean, I can't, I've heard about these things. I've looked into these things, but I can't verify them because they were done after the film, and so I only know what people I know who've been researching these things say. Now,
everyone always describes Trump as this brilliant businessman, right? Why don't you describe his activities down there in Atlantic City? Was he successful down in Atlantic City with the casinos and stuff and his war with Merv Griffin?
Well, interestingly enough, he is now no longer in the casino business. And he has declared bankruptcy more than once in Atlantic City. And here's a man who says he's for the little guy. Well, every time he's declared bankruptcy, he leaves the little guy holding the bag. Management contracts that will pay workers severance and pension and benefits all get canceled. And vendors get left holding the bag for things that were delivered or that were to be delivered. And then he walks away with millions and millions of dollars in management fees. So, Donald Trump is not a man for the little people. He's a man for himself.
Yeah,
and if he was such a great businessman, he'd still be in business in Atlantic City. I know the business has changed, but it is still possible to make money on casinos.
Well, not only that, but he has his name on a building here in Las Vegas. There's a Trump hotel here in Las Vegas, but there's no gambling in that hotel.
It is hard to get a casino license. You have to be approved by the Casino Control Commission, and, Donald, a lot of things were overlooked in New Jersey when Donald applied for his casino license. And in Missouri, he applied for one, and he was denied it. And I think he may have been denied it in Las Vegas as well.
I think the building in Las Vegas, he just has his name. He licensed his name on the building. Now,
that's basically what he does these days. He doesn't really build anything from scratch. He licenses his name.
Yeah, now back in the days when you were up in his business, was he doing that kind of? I guess he couldn't because his name wasn't that great.
No, his name wasn't that great. The licensing of the Donald name comes after bankruptcy and is part of his, when he starts doing The Apprentice.
Right. Now, did you get into his whole... It's funny because I can hear you marching around the house chasing the dog. Did you look into his whole war he had with Steve Wynn here in Vegas?
A little bit. I mean, part of that is is past my time. You know, he and Steve Wynn went at it, but they were I think that's rival businessmen, and I don't really have a bone to pick so much with Donald and rival businessmen. I do have a problem where he declares bankruptcy and he leaves all the workers without any money, and he gets a multi-million-dollar management fee.
Yeah.
And he's selling himself as a presidential candidate who cares about the little guy.
Now, are you surprised that the media doesn't ask him tougher questions about these topics, which are well known to people in the audience?
It's astonishing, and all I can think is that they really, it's all of that, as Les Mouvins, the head of CBS News, said, Donald's been fabulous for ratings.
Yeah, and he's still fabulous for ratings because they show his conferences from cover to cover, from start to finish.
Exactly.
Yeah, even they don't even let Bernie. And by the way, who are you supporting in the campaign?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, my politics aren't important.
Okay. All right. Now, what about the whole story with...
I can tell you it's not Donald Trump.
Okay. You're not a closet supporter of Trump?
No, definitely not.
Okay. What about...
The funny thing is in presidential candidates, I'm willing to say that, I don't agree with you politically, but I respect you. I respect what you've done. I respect, that you've come up through the hawse pipe, and these are your opinions. I can agree to disagree with you respectfully. But there's nothing about Donald to agree to disagree with respectfully.
Yeah, I hear you. But what do you think it is that is attracting people to him? Do you think it's just blatant racism? When he says build a wall and throw out the Muslims, and is it just...
People are unhappy. So who are the two insurgent candidates in this campaign? It's Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, and both in their own ways, they are appealing to the huge feeling of discontent that is across America. There are so many people who are out of work or who have jobs that are beneath them, and they want to go back to the way it was. I mean, obviously we can never go back to the way it was. So you could build the wall, you could throw out all these people, but the jobs aren't going to come back. The steel mill jobs and everything aren't going to mysteriously come back because manufacturing has changed. It's mechanized. You don't need 150,000 people to do X anymore. 1,000 people can do it.
Yeah, it's so true. Times have certainly changed in this country. That's for sure. We don't have that manufacturing base as we used to.
But you can't. It doesn't exist anywhere because the ways things are done are so different.
One thing I always found interesting was Trump's, and you talk about it in the film, is Trump's relationship with Mike Tyson, the boxer. What can you tell us about that?
Well, like everything else, Donald wanted to take it over and make it his own, and he ruined it. Mike Tyson was being managed by people I can't say were the greatest people in the world, but, they knew what they were doing, and Donald didn't know what he was doing, and, Mike Tyson was just a troubled kid. And he, just totally ruined that whole situation.
Yeah, I can remember, back in the days, Trump was carrying all the Tyson fights down in Atlantic City at his hotels. And I used to go to all of them back in those days. As a matter of fact, we even flew on the helicopter a couple of times. But a rumor that was going around was, and I think it's even in one of these books, is that Trump had some kind, and I think even Mike Tyson accused him of this, is that Trump had some kind of relationship with Robin Givens. Did you ever find anything about that?
Well, he lined up with her to, try and control Tyson because you had Robin Givens and her mother in one corner, and then you had the boxing folks in the other corner. And I don't think he had a relationship. He might have. I don't know anything about it.
Okay. Now, it came out in one of the books that he had a hair transplant. I think it was Ivana's book. Did you ever find anything about that?
You can look at his hair and you can make your own decisions.
Okay.
But as I say, we weren't looking for the salacious personal material. We really felt that Donald's business practices and the whole way that he and how he conducted business and the fact that he never told the truth were enough. We didn't need to start digging around into his personal private life.
Yeah, and you go into really, really good detail, too. And it's a very well-done documentary, and it's entertaining as well on top. Now, what about Roy Cohn? How deep does his relationship go with Roy Cohn?
Very deep. His father and Roy Cohn had represented his father, and Donald, stepped right in there, and Roy is who opened the door for him for so many things in New York City.
And why don't you describe Roy Cohn's reputation in New York City?
It depends. Look, even a lot of the people who used Roy Cohn knew who he was. I mean, he had a reputation as being, the evilest fixer you could find.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Roy Cohn was also too very right-wing, conservative values. And now Trump's
he may have had right-wing conservative values politically and publicly, but in his personal life, he was anything but a right-wing conservative.
Yeah, I hear you that. Yeah, the guy used to hang out at Studio 54. It's
and worse,
yeah.
and worse, and worse.
Well, okay. Now, when you say at worse, are you aware of what are you getting? What are you getting at?
Well, we do know that Roy Cohn died of AIDS.
Right, and so he was
Angels in America tells that story. So I mean, you can watch that film and revisit all of that and make your own decisions about that.
Yeah, everybody's aware about that. But now, what about his relationship with people like Mapplethorpe and those kind of characters? Are you aware of that?
Well, that's part of his. You mean Roy Cohn's relationship?
Yeah, Roy
with
Cohn.
them. Well, that's part of his personal sex life. That's what I was talking about.
Okay, but those are pretty dark people. Besides their sex life, drugs, sex, and also too.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Drugs, sex, and pretty much extreme beliefs.
Very extreme, but as I say, I only know secondhand.
Okay.
So I won't talk publicly to things I don't know.
Okay.
Except by rumor and innuendo, and I don't know specifically.
Now, along the way, Trump picked up a relationship with Roger Stone. Did you come across any of that?
Well, when we were making the film, we had heard that Roger Stone and it was and also Paul Manafort, who's now handling his Delicate campaign here. So yeah, he and Roger Stone have been tight for a very long time.
Okay, and Stone's background is Watergate, Nixon, dirty tricks. He was.
But that's the funny thing. So here's supposedly Roger Stone quit the campaign and was fired not too long ago. But here's the thing. Roger Stone's been working for Donald for years. So that means his presidency is not some kind of out-of-the-blue insurgent campaign. Donald's been talking about running for president since the late 80s. So this isn't something just out of the blue that, he just suddenly decided to do one day. This is very planned. And so the other thing is everybody talks about the people who, are rooting for Donald say, oh, he's an outsider. Donald is anything but an outsider. He is the consummate insider.
What was Stone doing for Trump all those years?
I believe he was helping, to do a lot of the deals that Donald did. He needed to have good inside political connections.
Okay, so Mr. Stone was sort of
it all has to do with zoning and variances. And then, of course, every time Donald was in banking trouble, he needed help.
Yeah, now why don't you go into some of that? Because now, what does Wall Street think of Donald Trump?
Well, I think Wall Street thinks that Donald... It depends. He became too big to fail, so what does that really mean? Did they like him? Did they dislike him? I think that he was useful at times for them. And he wasn't really he's not a Wall Street guy. He licenses his name, or prior to that he used to build buildings. He's not an investor.
Right, but he did get some money, I think, through junk bonds and kind of defaulted on a lot of that money.
That was used to try and finance. That was a way of trying to finance some of his projects, and that's how he became too big to fail, and he had to be bailed out.
Now, there was a period of time, too, that he was put on an allowance.
Well, that was all part of his bankruptcy in Atlantic City and on everything else here in the city. Don't forget, there was a period of time when Donald was so short on money, he tried to slip his private plane out of the hangar. Like when you park your car and you don't pay the bill and they hold it. He tried to sneak his plane out.
It's just amazing. Now, also, too, the myth of, okay, he got $1 million loan from his dad and then he paid it back. Later on in his career, did his father bail him out again?
His father did bail him out. He needed money, and he couldn't get it any other way. So his father went to Atlantic City and plunked down a lot of money, got a lot of chips.
Yeah, I used to
Bought a
buy
lot of
chips, yeah. Okay, let's take a little break here. Libby Handros, she's the documentary filmmaker of Trump, What's the Deal? I absolutely recommend this documentary, okay? It's not just great Trump stuff. It's a good documentary even if you're not into Trump. You can find it at trumpthemovie.com. We'll be back with more of Libby Handros after these messages. And now, a word from our sponsors. Pacific West Bamboo, your premier source for sustainable building material. They provide construction-grade and craft-grade bamboo material for all your indoor, outdoor, and gardening needs. Contact them for event planning and display building as well. 503-839-8126. Or you go to their new website, pacificwestbamboo.com. Or you can contact them on Facebook at Pacific West Bamboo. That's 503-839-8126. Amanda from Pacific West Bamboo was our first sponsor. She's been so good to us, so please support her in return. I want to make everybody aware of our new members section at www.oppermanreport.com. You can go there and sign up for a monthly, quarterly, or yearly subscription. You can even purchase episodes one by one. You get full access to brand new original content, new guests, new uncensored interviews, my own investigations and reports, and we're going to be adding sections with documents, images, police reports, either provided by myself or by my guests, or for my own investigations, my own reports. So you can go to oppermanreport.com and you can sign up there tonight. You can start listening tonight. Strawman. I want to mention Strawman. Strawman is a band out of Toronto, Canada. They're good friends of the Opperman Report. They're a trio of guys who share the same mindset most of us here do, and they put that energy into their words and music. So check them out at strawmanmusic.com and drop them a line to let them know that you heard them here on the Opperman Report. We'll be doing an interview with Sean Duffy soon. You can get an autographed copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator, by visiting my PI website, emailrevealer.com. We also offer a computer and cell phone forensics. We can recover deleted text messages to uncover infidelity. We offer asset searches, locates, email tracing, background reports, and we can even trace your spouse's email address back to internet dating websites to catch them cheating online. You can reach us at 800-572-9762, or you can email me at emailrevealer@aol.com. New World Mexican Women. Everyone loves the New World Mexican Women, and their line of fine, handcrafted, authentic Mexican jewelry of stone mosaic and abalone stone inlay. In their first book, titled New World Mexican Women, available on lulu.com, they teach you how to make this jewelry, and they have a collection of love letters to their men from their hometown that have immigrated to the United States to find work. They have also published a new book entitled Azuquina to the Rodeo. It's about a young girl that falls in love with a rodeo bull rider, and she runs away with him without telling her family. You can find the New World Mexican Women by Googling New World Mexican Women. And you can ask them about their deals on wholesaling their fine jewelry and all of the other projects that they have going on. If you'd like to have your business or website advertised here and promoted all over the world on dozens of stations every day, give us a call at 800-572-9762 or email oppermanreport@gmail.com. And now back to our show. Well, not so soon. First, we're going to talk about MichiganMushrooms.net. They offer the highest quality chaga chunks available anywhere, picked fresh from healthy live trees in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, sun-dried and quickly shipped to you. They're very proud of their long-standing reputation as trusted farmers and collectors of wild, gourmet, and medicinal mushrooms. Customer service and offering high-quality products is very important to them. And they have a strict grading system that begins in the woods, and they would rather pass up a chunk that looks bad instead of passing it off to you, the customer. Additionally, they are recognized by the state of Michigan as mushroom experts. They are certified by the Department of Agriculture to sell 20 different species of mushrooms, and proof of this certification is available upon request. That is MichiganMushrooms.net or on Facebook, Michigan Mushrooms LLC. Got a brand new sponsor, The Rodeo of Doom by Miguel La Sala. The year is 2384. And Henry Fields is a down-on-his-luck adjunct professor in the architecture department at Andreas Tangen University in Los Angeles. But he has one thing going for him that others don't. He has enough of the coveted EP14 to live to be 200, if he wants to. Not that hard. When he saves a woman for certain death with a few drops of the EP14, a corrupt government agency tries to blackmail him into selling off his supply. Just when it seems like it might be a good idea, all hell breaks loose. The Rodeo of Doom was written by Miguel La Sala and edited by Margaret A. Harrell, the author of Keep This Quiet, memoir series. Now, she was also the copy edited Hunter S. Thompson's breakthrough book, Hell's Angels. According to Harrell, the Rodeo of Doom will grip you and pull you into the wild ride of a different reality. This is a consciously fast-paced journey into the future. Author Miguel La Sala reveals his craft by intricately weaving in fine details for his reader and keeps you anxiously anticipating what will happen next. Do not wait to read this book. There will surely be more to come from this author. The Rodeo of Doom is available on Amazon.com, and there's a link to the Rodeo of Doom in the Opperman Report bookstore.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.